So here I got the daily candles 1-year chart for HTZ, Hertz Global Holdings. So we see a crazy spike in volume and price on Friday. The day actually closed with 1,030,000,000 shares being traded, nearly doubling the previous high of about 530 million shares being traded back in June. So as we all know, it had this crazy bounce here, like a dead cat bounce, we thought, from all the Robin Hooders and everything. It was talked about a lot, but here we are doing it again. The top of this wick right here, 250 being exactly where we closed. That's interesting, right? So the bottom of this previous support, this support right here, that was for a couple maybe days or 3 days or so, is acting as resistance. So that 250 is going to be a very interesting level. But let's go over why this happened. First of all, we got the news right here. So they got a debt financing of $1.65 billion, which is interesting because it says that includes using as much as $800 million of it for working capital and general corporate purposes, right? It uses allows them to use up to $1 billion for purchasing vehicles in the U.S., right? And let's also take note on their last 10Q. This company only had 156 million shares outstanding as of August 3rd. So relatively small float and shares outstanding, and a real small market cap, especially for that type of volume. So when they got traded, that 1,300,000,000 shares of, the outstanding share count got potentially flipped 6.8 times, so nearly 7 times got rotated. So what my understanding what's probably happened is, after this big thing happened right here, a lot of shorts probably got in there, and they've been shorting every time since. They know it's going to be heavy, so they got squeezed. And even more evidence to that theory is, check this out, the American Bulls, which a lot of money follows, the previous short signal was issued on 10/12, 4 days ago, when the stock price was 109. Since, HTZ has risen 121%. So anyone that follows these guys, they're pretty good at usually, but when this goes against them, a lot of people can get squeezed. So there's probably a high short volume in this stock, because it's also worth noting, let's do some of the fundamentals straight off the bat. So even if they get $1.6 billion, what is interesting is, look at this. So, not that I went too far. Yeah, so check this out. For the 3 months ended June 3rd, they lost $852 million. For the 6 months ended, there you go, $1.2 billion. So what's this really mean? It's $1.6 billion of the debt financing, if they're losing $800 million every 3 months. So I still don't think this is a strong long-term investment. It's just a short-term. You just play the momentum. And then once the short squeeze is over, the shorts will regain control pretty fast and dump this back down potentially. But let's look at it just from a support and resistance level. I got them on the 5-minute candles. I did it on the 1 day. So we see a clear uptrend right here. The 200 SMA at the end of the day was left at $2. VWAP was left at 230. So what's crucial at as long as that one price, I don't know if it's, even though it's under where it closed at, I want to call it support. I can't call it a price target because it's not over it, but that level to me is this 218-ish, 220-ish right here. This line right here. If that holds, that's interesting, but I wouldn't even chase there. I want to see it test 2 again before I load, because that puts it back on the 200 SMA, as well as this level right here that it bounced off of twice. But if it gets down to 2, I wouldn't be surprised if it flushed underneath it real quick, maybe hit a little 195 or something before it bounced. But ultimately, we saw that in the morning it spiked, came back, and bounced around off this 175. Hit 167 quickly, but 175 mostly. Which when we look on the daily, on the 200, which we'll go back to, we could see why it did that. See this level that had been previously support right here on 175 on these days? Once it broke under, we could see it became a resistance right here. It became resistance here, became resistance here, and then a downtrend. So what happens is once we busted through that resistance on this squeeze, it became support. So going back to the 5-day, 1 day. So the first point is at 2 is what's crucial to me on support levels. You can look for a bounce off that 2, 195. It might go under. It won't surprise me like it did on these wicks. Right? 3 times. And then it went under to come back up. So ideally I would like this 175 if I could get it. Wait for the 175, 170. Maybe start loading 175, half my position, and then try to get lower, 170, high 160s. But I'd have a tight risk at the end of this week is 167. I'd be risking 164, 165. If it breaks that, I'll be waiting for the 150. There's not any much activity in the chart. So after 150, my next level of support I'd be looking for would be 135. So 135, 150, and 175. And then the 2. Then the 220-ish, 218 level. That would be if I load it 2, that would be my first price target, 218. If I load at 175, my first price target will be 2. If I load at 150, my first price target will be 175. So if I loaded 2, my first price will be my 220. If 220 is some solid, crazy support, which I don't know if it will be, but if it convinces me somehow, I would load there. My next price target would be this 240 level. So these ones are going to be closer, but it's a pretty heavy and congested, the price action here. So 240, 250, then 265, then 275. So then let's go back to the daily candle and go to the 200 to go from further up. So if it can break that, actually I wanted to show you on the 5 1 day why I went with the so after it breaks 275, see how it's hit the wick here 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So if it breaks that, the next point would be the very top in free market from people that might be trying to get out. They loaded it 280 and then wrote it down like 170 with no discipline. So who knows? They probably got out over here, and that's why it's proven resistance. So these people loaded here, and now once it came up here, not only are they trying to sell and providing resistance, that's a short strategy. The shorts are jumping in, seeing that, saying, wow, look, this should be the resistance. So we get a clear break over that 275 right here. The next one would be 288, the very top of this wick. We get a clear break on that. Then let's go to the daily 200 day. So my next price target after that 288 would be 3. Then from there, $320, then $350, then I would go 4, then $450 right here. Then my next price target would be 5 right here, then $530. Then after that, it'd be right here, 640. After 640, I would put it right here, around 730. Then ultimately, this chart says it's heavy around 820. So again, once it breaks that 288, it'd be 320, 350, 4, 450, 5, 530, and then 640, 720, then around 830ish would be my price targets. I don't think it's ultimately gonna go up there, but I mean, on a crazy squeeze, if the volume keeps up in this irrational market lately, who knows? But for the most part, I think it will probably maybe test, get up here again. If anything, hit this 350 and fail. Then with 150 million shares, maybe they'll whip out an offering eventually, kill the momentum in the long term, and ultimately bleed down. Because you gotta think, not only is the corona really killing them, this is an industry that's been getting killed by the Uber and the Lyfts. It's almost a dying technology, so it's not like it's never gonna. People aren't gonna rent cars anymore, but it's definitely gonna take a hit with those other companies. So, just a short-term price action play.